All right, guys, how's it going? My name's Stephen Wilcox from Final Form Studios, and today I'm sitting with David. David, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's David Baylis. I work as a real-time automotive artist. I've set up my own business and I also collaborate with Epic Games. I'm currently set up in Vancouver, Canada.
Very cool. And so, how long have you been diving into Unreal?
It's been now almost 10 years, I would say, because I've started Unreal when they first released it. I think it was back in 2014. So Unreal Engine 4, which back then was a subscription service until they made it free. So yeah, 2014, uh, about nine years. Yeah, it's been a while, and I started actually with architecture.
Okay, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had a kind of like a fun moment. Actually, earlier today, I've been in Unreal now for 5 years, and on Facebook
nice.
it has those cute little reminders where it's like, oh, I had like my very first render. I was like, wow, it's come a long way.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, yeah.
So uh, luckily now we don't have to deal with light maps and all of that baking stuff. Thank God. But yeah, those were the days.
Those are the days. Those are the days. So, yeah. So, without further ado, let's just jump into some of your stuff so our viewers can kind of see some of the stuff that you're working on. I'm just going to share my screen here.
Sure.
Okay. So, David, you want to go ahead and just kind of set us up for this video that we're about to watch?
Yeah, sure. So this is my latest video animation slash cinematic that I've done using Unreal Engine. So this is really all of the years of research and training that I've gone into this project. I've used a combination of a couple of things here. So I'm using the latest Google Maps API plugin to get the satellite view here of Willow Springs. And then what I basically did is that I drew the circuits, the waste track on top of it. And then I've put a Porsche there and I was like, okay, let's first of all start with a still render. And I started animating and it started just basically being a whole animation. So yeah, lots of research, lots of work being into this because most of my animations so far were just a straight line kind of animation, and of course this is a bit more complex. It has curves and everything, but I finally managed to do it. So yeah, without further ado, we can start the animation. So all of these shots that you see are rendered inside Unreal Engine using the path tracer system. So this is using Unreal Engine 5.2 with the movie render queue. And what I did is got all the animation baked in there. I imported that. It's via 3ds Max. And I overlaid some sounds that I picked from YouTube in the editing software with Premiere Pro.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So
So
you were
that
saying
achieved.
you for like the environment. I've also kind of used. I've been using the Google. I think it's like the Google Maps, like with Cesium. Is that the same plugin that you're?
Cesium.
Cesium.
Yeah, it
Oh,
is.
okay.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. So a few weeks ago, a few months ago, they just released a an option to now integrate the Google Maps API. So it's still using Cesium, but you now have the option to either select Cesium or the Google Maps API, which has a bit more precision and accuracy.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I started out with the Cesium plugin a while ago, and then they just did the Google Maps plugin. So it's
Yes.
just nice to
Yep.
play with that. I have a filmmakers class, like an Unreal Engine filmmakers class. I've been using that to kind of teach my students for like working with like directors and DPs for location scouting, and so also trying to communicate to like drone pilots on like the particular shots. So
Oh, that's
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you can Yeah, so for the viewers, I'm just explaining, what Cesium does. Is you can basically take the latitude and longitude of any place, right? And you can have that integrated into Unreal Engine. So yeah, I guess for like drone shooting, or if you want a specific type of environments, you can simply just type in those values, those coordinates, and it automatically loads there in real time, which is pretty fun. First time I did that, I was like, wow, this is cool. Has a lot of potential.
Yeah, I was because I'm from Tokyo, Japan, so it was really fun to give my students a little tour of Tokyo, and then I had them kind of like talk about like, oh, where in the world are you guys? So then they were able to kind of show like the other classmates like, oh, this is where we're from, and they kind of were able to get like a little virtual tour of like where they live. So
Wow,
yeah, super cool. So and then I think that
that's
being
crazy when you think about it.
I'm excited for when it gets to almost like a photo real level. So like right now, like as you know, it's like it's still not quite, it's not photo real yet, but it's really good for using it as like kind of like a location placeholder. And
Yeah,
then you can kind of
yeah.
like do your own 3D, like I don't know if you do your own 3D scanning with photogrammetry, and then you can kind of like overlay it on top of existing structures, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, that's the best kind of approach. And Sketchfab actually has a lot of scanning assets there, scanned assets made by artists. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, you can see in this picture actually, which is using the Cesium plugin and the Google Maps. So from a zoomed out distance, it's quite detailed. But when you zoom in, it's quite blurry. So what I do is I just overlay a landscape, or fill in some Quixel Megascans asset to make it a less blurry, right? So yeah, Cesium is pretty good if you want that backdrop. Thinking of Japan, you have some beautiful sceneries there, so you can use that as a backdrop kind of thing. So yeah, I'd say like that's the best sort of combination you can do.
Yeah, I actually, speaking of Japan, I think I saw, where was it? I think you did one based in Tokyo, did you not? I think it was maybe on
I
your website.
did.
I saw that with
Yeah,
the
so
Japanese license plate. I was like, oh, that's a nice little detail. There you go.
yeah, it was Mount Fuji. So
Yeah.
if you go next to that F1, which is that
Uh,
LB Works Toyota Supra
oh, right here.
in the
You
middle.
want to take a look at it?
Yeah, let's fire it up.
Cool.
Yeah, there's that Japanese. So yeah, you see Mount Fuji right there, and essentially what I'm doing here is it's just it's a bit of like magic. Just really concentrating on foregrounds. So it's just parking lots, and it's literally floating in midair. And then in the backdrop you have Cesium with Mount Fuji. That's it. But of course you don't see that in the camera. That's all the magic you have to do inside Unreal. You don't have to detail everything. Only show what's important in the camera angle. Yeah, so a bit of street racing in Japan here, between a Supra and a Huracan. Yeah, that was cool. So again, yeah, as you see here, it's a very long tunnel, straight line, kind of like the Fast and Furious 6 one right here. It's like a huge straight tunnel. But that back then that was the only thing I could sort of do. And just learning and learning, you get to know a bit more about the engine, and that's how you progress.
So I'm curious, for the car assets, because you have a lot of like car assets here. Do you model your own car assets, or do you have a recommendation of like for someone who's wanting to Like for myself, I've never actually done any automotive or architectural visualization renders. Most of my work has kind of been based on LED virtual production for TV and film. So it's
Hmm.
more been it's mostly been focused on like natural landscapes. So someone who's
Okay.
wanting to kind of get into doing maybe architectural visualization or like these automotive renders, do you have a recommendation of like where to find assets or how to get started?
Absolutely. So architecture wise, there's a Turbo Squid. I mean, Turbo Squid is great for everything.
Mm.
And Evermotion. Evermotion arc models they've been there for years, and they produce some really good assets for architecture. Now, when it comes to cars, again, their Turbo Squid is pretty good. You got also Hum 3D, you got Square 3D, and you got a new one that's sort of caught my attention is the studio called HKV Studios. They're actually on Turbo Squid. So if you type in HKV Studios, they have some really high-end quality models with quality interiors because that's hard to get. So they're a bit pricey. I mean, but you pay for what you get for. You know, the
Mm.
quality that you get is pretty good, and I see that as a investment too. So you know, when I get these cars, it brings me clients, right? So I see it as a investment, and I think it's good to like buy a car that you really like. Let's say you want a Lamborghini, you know, you buy the 3D version of it, and then you do multiple iterations, and you know, after you can like buy multiple ones and possibly get sponsorships too.
Mm. So the majority, you mentioned client work. What's been kind of your process in maybe approaching clients? What are the types of clients you're working with? And yeah, just how is it like working with clients? I'm guessing mostly automotive and architecture visualization.
Yeah, so I actually dropped architectural visualization. It's still on my website because I think it's useful for the client to know that I can do something else than just car renderings, and actually both of them sort of merge together. So the fact that I can do architectural visualization allows automotive clients to be like, hey, could you model this castle in France and put a Ferrari in there? So that's really how I combine the two. But I really, really specialize now in automotive rendering, and you know, I can build these environments together. So yeah, these two really tie up together. And in terms of clients, most of them reach out on Instagram or on LinkedIn. That's where I get the most reach on the clients, and most of them are based in the US. I got a couple in Europe also, and yes, there are mostly automotive people, but I also have individuals or VFX studios um, reach out to me.
Very cool. So I just wanted to just kind of go through like your website a little bit. So we have some of the automotive designs. Is there a particular, do you have a favorite car?
Yes,
You
I
do.
do,
Okay.
and it's yeah, it's funny because I love them all, and you know, essentially, I'm just building this virtual garage of cars I like. But yeah, you see that Porsche, that black Porsche 930. So if you go up a
Oh,
little bit more, so
oh,
not that one. I know I did that one too, but that was a bit before. So yeah, the second, that black Porsche on the parking lot, which is next to that Ferrari in the autumn leaves. So above, just above there. Yeah, that one.
oh, this is your favorite?
It is. Yeah, that one. It is my favorite because still now. I'm like, wow. I mean, it's. I don't know, like just the quality of it that comes from Unreal Engine 4. Uh, and that was the beginning of path tracing too. That
Hmm.
was the really beginning of path tracing. And back then, it was really hard to get anything working because decals weren't supported. So you had to, you know, find ways to cheat a little bit and, you know, make planes and put them just above the ground. And there was a lot of hacky ways to do things,
Hmm.
but it turned out pretty good. And I was like, okay, damn, this is really promising for Unreal's future. When I produced this image, I was like, I can only imagine the next iterations of Unreal, what it's going to do. And I guess we all saw it with Unreal 5 when they announced Nanite and Lumen. Now real-time rendering is catching up to Path Tracer quality.
Hmm.
So yeah, that one is definitely my favorite. And I actually did this one for my manager at Epic, Daryl Oberts, who helped me a lot when I started back then inside Unreal at Epic Games. And I know he really loves classic Porsches. So I did that kind of for him. I put his initials on the number plate there, and it's
Hmm.
kind of a tribute to him.
Hmm. And then also here you have, it seems, you've got some prints available for so people who want to, yeah,
Yeah,
very reasonably priced. Yeah, these are beautiful. Do you have a
thank
favorite
you.
print?
It's funny because I actually have that architecture one, like that very first one
Hmm.
with the gazebo on the beach, which is in my room.
Okay.
Um, and yes, I did that when I was doing some architecture. So uh, very very different from what I do, but it just reminds me of coziness and what I was doing back then.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
very very different mood.
Does it remind you of like a particular place or have any like a particular significance?
No, I think it's part of the my romantic French side, let's say. So I just did that because I sort of like that. So yeah, I just back then enjoyed doing those kinds of renders,
Hmm. Yeah, it's very beautiful. I
but
just wanted to say,
completely imaginary. It was just
hmm.
out of the sky like that. I was like, oh yeah, I want to be in that place. So I
Hmm.
just did that.
And then we have some of your architecture visualizations. Really, really beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there another one that you're particularly proud of on this one? I really like this one here. This is
This one, yeah. So it's funny. Back then, I was doing a bit of mix of both. So I was doing um, this one is rendered in Corona, um, and I was experimenting. Sorry, Unreal Engine, but I was very familiar with 3ds Max and V-Ray or Corona
hmm,
back then. So I was kind of doing both of them at the same time. Because back then, yeah, of course, with Unreal, you had to bake lighting, to get realistic um, interiors, which that took a lot of time because you had to unwrap every model and specify a specific UV channel, and it just took a lot of time to do to get
yeah.
something realistic. Now, with UE5, you just put things and you get Lumen that handles everything for you dynamically. But yeah, this one is pretty cool. It kind of has that Zen vibe to it, and the other ones are. I have a couple of Unreal ones too
Hmm,
in there, but mostly it just taught me a lot about the engine. And I
hmm,
always say to people who want to get into automotive, I tell them, look, start with a bit of architecture because
hmm,
you really learn about the lighting in there. You learn how to light an interior, how the light works, what the values need to put, the
hmm,
exposure values. All of that you can transfer to automotive. And you have once you do that, you have a really good background on how to light your scenes.
hmm.
So it's definitely a recommendation to start for those of you who start with Unreal Engine, you know, do some environments or some architecture. Don't always start with automotive because the content is quite hard to find too.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, you've
yeah,
got some really, really beautiful work. I just want to take and go back to your YouTube here. Actually, we'll just want to show you your Instagram here. Got some really beautiful stuff.
Thank you. It's where usually I post all the latest experiments and fun, and um, started having very thankful for all the the community who follow me and encourage me. Every time I post, it's fun. It's a lot
Yeah.
of fun. Yeah, every time, every day, I just wake up and I'm like, okay, I want to drive a Bugatti, or I want to drive a Ferrari. So I just, I can't afford it. So I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna do it in Unreal, and slowly but surely, I hope that one day that dream becomes true.
So do you have a dream car that if you, money was not an issue, what would you be driving?
I was really into Aston Martin. I just love the
Me
elegance of
too.
it.
James Bond.
Already?
James Bond.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. What
Yes.
color would you pick? What color?
I think that I was
And
really
what car?
inspired by it was actually an old video game called Need for Speed 3. And there was like
Yep.
the Aston Martin was my favorite car to choose. And actually, um, yeah, I get a lot of my inspiration from video games. And I kind of got away from that for a little while. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
early inspirations for cars would probably be yeah, Need for Speed 3, the Aston Martin, and then James Bond also had an
Legendary.
Aston Martin. And then I think that
Of course.
there was a game called Twisted Metal Black, where
Mhm.
basically you drive around with cars, shooting other cars. And there's this
Yeah.
my favorite character, Chassis Blue. She, I believe, had an Aston Martin. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was like a very sleek car, you know?
Also,
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely a thing for you. Yeah, you're in love with Aston Martin. Well, good choice. I
Yeah.
think they're absolutely like stunning, and they're not the fastest, but I don't mind that. I just love the design and the class that they have.
Mm,
And for me, the Aston Martin Vantage has the most beautiful rear end
mm.
of all cars. Let's say it that way. It's just stunning.
Yeah.
So yeah, Aston Martin and Porsche. I have a thing for Porsche now. Um, both
Mm,
great cars.
yeah. Did you have one other video you want to take a look at on your YouTube here? Any?
Yeah, actually, let's go and do. So if you go back at the beginning, and take a look at the second video with that Mustang.
Okay. Okay, David, did you want to set us up for this video?
Yeah, absolutely. So this one is a little different than, let's say, the GT3 cinematic, because what I'm doing here is more geared towards the virtual production side of things. And what I'm doing here, and you'll see later in the video, is that I'm actually controlling the camera inside Unreal Engine with my phone. So it's AR based, and you can actually enable that inside Unreal Engine, which is called the virtual camera plugin.
Hmm.
And once you do all the setup, you connect your phone and everything, and that lets you control the camera with your phone. So you can actually have this really nice handheld movements
Hmm.
inside the engine as if you were there. And that's actually what I'm doing here. So you'll see in the video, you can launch the video and we'll see that sort of handheld movement going.
All right.
So I'm also switching colors, and this is sort of an idea of, how I wish configurators would be on car sites.
Hmm.
So if you were to configure your Mustang, you'd be like, no, okay, this is my showroom. And again, yeah, this here, I'm just controlling. So I'm taking my phone and just like going really close. Yeah, so what I do, and again, this is in my room here. I'm just controlling the camera like this and going up close. So sometimes I would, almost bang the TV because that, my space is quite small. Ideally, you want a stage or something. But you can do this if you have an iOS device. I really recommend looking into it. And I'm sure you, Steve, have used that plugin before, right?
Yeah, I started out with I think that it is like the Apple AR kit, and yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely amazing. I myself use the Vive. So, David, you want to kind of continue and kind of tell us a little bit about this one here?
Yeah. So as I was saying, the here what I'm doing is that I'm controlling the camera inside the engine with my iPhone. So I actually control it with my iPad, but any sort of iOS device that you have, you can actually link it to the virtual camera inside Unreal. And that allows you to have that nice handheld movement, which is what I'm doing here basically. So yeah,
Hmm.
you'll see in the video that there is a bit more of a natural motion to the camera than just a standard linear cinematic, I would say.
Mm. Yeah, I really like yeah, this one, the movement feels very natural. I like it.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm really just like taking it, landscape mode and just doing this like this, and you can do this like it's magic. Like the first time you enable this, it's you see the camera inside your screen here, and you feel like God, like you like wow,
Yeah.
I can control this, I can fly anywhere, and you got all the controls to where you can change the camera lens, the depth of field. You can also navigate with joysticks, touchscreen joysticks, and all of that stuff. So it's a
Hmm.
pretty good tool, and yeah, it's people like it
Yeah.
every time they see it.
Have you had a chance to play with any of your Unreal Engine levels in VR? Like, have you played with any of the VR kits?
I actually not that much for automotive. I used to with architecture.
Mm.
I used to develop a lot of these for the company I used to work for these virtual walkthroughs for clients' future homes. But yeah, in terms of automotive, I haven't really used it because uh, personally, I didn't see a real advantage of using it. Um, but that's just my personal opinion. I know in some companies they would use that a bit more. Let's say you'd have the CMF team and the engineering team collaborate inside a VR project. So you'd have the engineer and the CMF team inside in VR in multiplayer, and they would have the virtual car in there, and they can actually annotate things or pick parts and show them uh, in virtual, which is good. And that was really good when there was the lockdown with COVID.
Mm.
People couldn't access the sites. I mean the factory, so you had to do everything online,
Yeah.
and you could just have the engineer connect, with the artist and collaborate in VR. So I think for that case, it's pretty good. But personally, I don't use VR that much for automotive.
I see. I see. Yeah, I think the first time I tried, doing the level design and then popping VR in for the first time, I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. So yeah, I'm a big fan of like VR. It's definitely coming a lot further. Yeah, I've teamed up with like HTC, doing promoting a lot of their products, and yeah, the
Nice.
headsets are getting a lot better. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing like what's going to be available for the future for like VR also. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's the thing. When I tested, that was, the first VR headset. So now, the resolution is increasing, so you get better fidelity, and Unreal is supporting more and more VR. Features such as nanite, you can do in VR, and for these billion triangle assets and see them in VR in high res, which is,
Mm.
I think that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
I think so. I think so. Was there any other things that you wanted to share, or
I think, yeah, we got a
I
pretty,
think we got a good coverage of a lot of this stuff. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, thank you so much for your time. I'm not going to keep you much longer. I really appreciate you kind of like
Thank you
diving
for inviting me.
yeah, not a problem. And just kind of diving in and sharing a lot with the about like the automotive and the architectural visualization. So yeah,
Thank
hopefully
you.
in the future, if you are interested, would love to maybe be part of like the education process. If I know your schedule is pretty busy, but yeah, maybe you know, people on the final form education, if there we get maybe enough demand for it, maybe we can have
Yeah.
part of like the an education series, like a special education series would be kind of cool.
Yeah, sure. We'll definitely keep in touch. I think it's good to connect. Having the same passion for this and the learning and the teaching aspect. So yeah, we'll definitely connect on that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, David. And
Thank you, Steve. Yeah.
we'll keep in touch.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks again for the
All right. Take it
podcast.
easy.
It's amazing. All right. Take care. Bye bye.